For 20 years, as Amazon exploded from a simple online bookstore into the giant it is today, Jeff Bezos wrote an annual letter to his shareholders. And if you read them all back to back, something amazing pops out. The world changed, the company changed, but the core playbook, it stayed exactly the same. So today, we're going to distill that unbelievably consistent strategy down to its core principles. This quote from the 2016 letter, man, it gets right to the absolute heart of the Amazon philosophy. It's this deep, almost paranoid obsession with avoiding complacency at all costs. This is the central idea, the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. But what does it actually mean to always be in day one? Well, we've broken it down into 5 core principles that have really guided Amazon from the very beginning. That day one mindset, a total obsession with the customer, playing the long game, giving people permission to fail, and finally, how they measure it all with a laser focus on cash. Okay, so let's dive into that first one, the big one, the one that really sets the stage for everything else, the day one mentality. So day one isn't about time, it's not the first day of the company, it's a culture. It means being obsessed with your customers, not your internal processes. Bezos calls this having a skeptical view of proxies. Basically, don't fall in love with your own metrics, fall in love with your customers' results. It's about making decisions fast and jumping on new trends with both feet. It's their secret weapon against becoming slow, bureaucratic, and eventually irrelevant. And you can see this wasn't just some phase. It has been their North Star through all the ups and downs. Just look at the timeline, from that very first letter in '97, through the dot-com crash that wiped out so many others, and all the way through game-changing bets like Prime and AWS, this day one idea was always the constant guiding force. Okay, so if day one is the mindset, what's the direction? Where do you point all that energy? That brings us right to principle number 2, obsess over the customer. The letters are crystal clear on this. The real driver of innovation isn't your competitors. It's what your customers want, need, and don't even know they want yet. I mean, this quote from the 1998 letter says it all. It's not about being afraid of getting beat by a rival company. It's about the fear of letting a customer down. It frames that whole customer relationship not as something you've captured, but as something you have to wake up and earn every single day. And this isn't just some fluffy mission statement, right? They made hard decisions based on this. Think about it. Allowing negative reviews on your own product pages, in the short term, that's going to cost you sales, for sure. Or building a feature that actually stops people from accidentally buying something twice. But these kinds of decisions, they build something way more valuable in the long run, real lasting customer trust. And building that kind of deep trust is, by its very nature, a long-term project. Which brings us perfectly to our third principle, a relentless, almost religious focus on playing the long game. Bezos pulls out this classic quote from the legendary investor Benjamin Graham, and it perfectly frames how Amazon thinks. They were never interested in winning the daily popularity contest of the stock market, the voting machine. They were focused on building a heavier company, one with real substance and value that would be recognized over time by the weighing machine. And this really highlights the fundamental trade-off they were willing to make. So many companies get trapped by the pressure to make their quarterly profits look good, to react to every whim of Wall Street. That's what optimizing for GAAP accounting is all about. But Amazon, from day one, said, nope, we're going to prioritize building an enduring franchise, even if it looks messy quarter to quarter. And they absolutely put their money where their mouth was. In that same 1997 letter where they laid out this whole long-term philosophy, they reported an absolutely staggering 838% revenue growth. They were pouring every single dollar back into growing the business, planting the seeds for the massive company that we all see today. Now, of course, when you're making big, long-term bets, you are going to get some of them wrong. And that leads directly to our fourth principle, which might be the hardest one for most companies to swallow: giving the entire organization permission to fail. This idea comes up again and again in the letters. Failure isn't just a possible outcome of invention, it's a requirement. If you don't have a pile of failures, it's a sign you're not experimenting enough. And if you're not experimenting, well, you're definitely not inventing. The story of Amazon Marketplace is just a perfect case study. It wasn't some stroke of genius on the first try. Not at all. It was actually born from the ashes of 2 pretty big failures. First, Amazon Auctions, and then Z-Shops. But by learning from what went wrong with those experiments, they finally landed on the third version, Marketplace, which became one of the absolute pillars of the entire company. Okay, last one. Let's look at our fifth principle, which is all about how they measure this stuff. How do you keep score when you're playing the long game and encouraging failure? It comes down to a clear, disciplined focus on cash flow. There it is, right there in the very first letter from 1997. This is the key. Forget how pretty the official accounting statements look. The single most important financial number, the one that tells the real story, is the amount of actual cash the business generates over the long haul. But why this obsession with cash? To really get it, let me ask you a question. If you see a business that's doubling its earnings every single year, that has to be a fantastic business to own, right? A total home run. Well, not necessarily. So in his 2004 letter, Bezos lays out this brilliant little analogy called the transportation machine. Look at the top line. You see a business with earnings just doubling every year. Looks amazing on an income statement, right? But now look below the surface. To get that growth, the company has to spend a fortune on new machines. So while earnings are soaring, the business is actually burning through massive amounts of cash. It's a money pit. And this gets right to the heart of their whole financial philosophy. You see, earnings can sometimes be an opinion, but cash flow is a fact. It's the actual oxygen a business breathes. It's the one metric that accounts for all those heavy investments, and it gives you a true picture of a company's health and its ability to create real, tangible value. So there you have it, the 5 core tenets of the Amazon playbook. Incredibly consistent for more than 2 decades. And it's a powerful, interconnected system when you think about it. A day-one culture drives you to obsess over customers, which forces you to think long-term, which means you have to accept failure, all while you measure your real progress with the hard discipline of free cash flow. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. These principles aren't just for building a trillion-dollar company. They're about how to approach pretty much any challenge or project. So the real question is, where in your own work has that day-two thinking started to creep in? And what's one small, bold, customer-focused decision you could make tomorrow to get back to day one?